It's time for Elder Law Matters Radio. Elder law issues can be overwhelming and complicated for families to deal with. Elder Law Matters will demystify all areas of elder law and estate planning through conversation, interviews, and case studies. Each week, partner Melissa Negrin-Wiener will walk you through the twists and turns of planning for your future or caring for an aged loved one. If you want to protect yourself and your family and preserve your assets, or if you're a caregiver for an aged loved one, then Elder Law Matters Radio is for you. Now it's time for Elder Law Matters Radio with your host, Melissa Negrin-Wiener.
Hey everyone, this is Melissa Negrin-Wiener, partner at Genser Cona Elder Law. Thank you for listening to Elder Law Matters. And today we're going to be talking about something that is on the top of everybody's minds, and that is COVID-19 or the coronavirus, and specifically how it's affecting our seniors and the most vulnerable sector of our population. Of course, we've all heard the news broadcasts and the governor speaking and everything else that the most at risk with this virus are seniors and those with underlying health conditions. And although younger people are still getting the virus, it's the elderly population and those that have pre-existing conditions that are really suffering terribly and also passing away. So they're telling us to stay home. And of course, for younger people, easier said than done. We have to work, we have children, we have to do a lot of different things throughout the day. But for our seniors, it's easier for them physically to remain at home. They can basically just hunker down and wait this out. But what is that doing to them from a psychological standpoint? We need to make sure that they are still eating healthy. We need to make sure that they are still getting some exercise. And we need to make sure that we're contacting them. We're calling them on the phone. We're setting them up with FaceTime or Skype or Zoom or any sort of technology that we can get to them safely so that they can see people's faces. They can communicate with their family members. They can celebrate. I've seen now families doing birthday celebrations via Zoom, via Skype. We want to make sure that we're still pulling our senior family members into those celebrations and into those different group get-togethers. It's really, really important for them from a psychological standpoint to remain, interacting. It's really tough. I mean, I myself have older parents, and while we go food shopping for them, we don't go in the house. We stand outside and we throw food to them in the doorway because we're afraid. Not that, we go anywhere these days, but still, we just are so worried about that population coming down with the COVID-19. Something else that is kind of blows my mind, and I can't even believe I need to talk about, is going back to another topic that we've discussed before, which is scams on the senior citizens. So we've talked about this. This is something that's been going on forever, where people are pretending to be from Social Security or the IRS, or they're calling and pretending to be a grandchild who's in trouble, who's in jail, who's lost their wallet in another country on vacation, and they're looking for people who are going to be vulnerable enough to, send them money, to forward them money, to give them a credit card number, anything like that. And of course, again, it's the senior population that's the most vulnerable to these scams. What's happening now is, of course, these scammers have, taken the opportunity with COVID-19 to find even more ways to scam our senior population. So we want people to beware of scams that are related to COVID-19. These could be calls that they're saying are from the CDC, calls with the promise of a cure, promise of medication. If you give them your credit card number over the phone, they'll send you a medication, or a pill or something that's going to keep you from getting it, a vaccine. So we're reminding people, never give your credit card information over the phone. Remember, the CDC is never going to send out an e-blast. They're never going to talk about a breakthrough over person-to-person telephone calls or over a mass email to, hundreds of thousands of people. That's not the way they do things. Just like the IRS will never call you or email you, neither will the CDC. If you want the most up-to-date information from the CDC, you go to their website, cdc.gov. Also, something that's happening here on Long Island, I know, is that people are actually going door to door in hazmat suits, offering tests for the coronavirus, which is absurd. I mean, you can't even get tests at a testing site right now, without specific documentation. Yet people are letting these individuals into their homes, and once they're in the home, they're robbing them. Whatever the case may be, it's been going on. I've heard in Suffolk County, and I'm sure in Nassau County as well, and all over. So something to also be aware of. Be very careful always about who you're letting into your home. Again, there's also emails for people who are trying to get you to send them like money orders or gift cards. If somebody is asking you for gift cards to a particular place, so that in response to them sending you a medication, you just, again, have to stop and think about what that sounds like and if it makes sense and what's going on. And, why I'm stressing about staying in touch with your family members and things like that is the isolation is what's going to cause people to react to these things. Not having someone to talk to, they'll welcome the telephone calls. They might welcome the people knocking on the door because they don't have that interaction that they're used to having. So it kind of all fits together, and it's just super important that we watch out for our seniors. And again, making sure that they're, of course, staying home, but they're washing their hands, they're using antibacterial, and they're trying to keep themselves otherwise as healthy as possible. So we're going to be back shortly with Juliet McKenna, the Director of Development Health Sciences for Stony Brook Medicine, and she's going to talk to us a little bit more about what's been going on at Stony Brook. Welcome back to Elder Law Matters. We're here with Juliet McKenna, the Director of Development Health Sciences for Stony Brook Medicine. Hi, Juliet. How are you?
Hi, Melissa. How are you?
Doing well. Thank you so much for joining us. I'm sure you're quite busy these days.
Yes, it's my pleasure to be here.
Can you talk to us a little bit about how Stony Brook is setting up their testing sites for the COVID-19 virus and what the procedure is?
Of course. Stony Brook has partnered with New York State for drive-through testing for the coronavirus at Stony Brook University's South P lot, and that's the parking lot off of Stony Brook Road. Residents must make advance appointments by calling the New York State Department of Health phone number, which is 888-364-3065. The hours of operation there for the drive-through testing are 7 days a week, 7 a.m. to 7 p.m. Now, Melissa, anyone from across Long Island, not just in Suffolk, who has contacted the New York State Department of Health at that number, the 888-364-3065 number, and is part of the highest risk population as determined by the Department of Health, will be evaluated and recommended for testing. But they do need to speak to someone at the Department of Health at that number to make the appointment. Another thing that Stony Brook is doing or has actually implemented is they've established a community coronavirus triage phone line, which is 631-638-1320. And registered nurses are there available to answer calls from 8 a.m. to midnight, Monday through Friday. And then they can help you evaluate and direct you to the appropriate healthcare setting for assistance as needed.
Okay, so that's terrific. And my question for you really is, So as elder law attorneys, obviously we're dealing with, the more vulnerable portion or section of the population when it comes to many things, but especially the coronavirus. And their concerns about, doing this type of, the drive-up testing, or how is it set up? So once they have an appointment, do they get taken to like a specific, like, is it how is it set up there? What is it?
It is set up where it's minimal contact between the patient in the vehicle as well as the healthcare provider. Everyone's windows are up in the line, and then once you reach your destination with the healthcare provider, it is literally a few seconds to take that test. And then again, that is only if the Department of Health recommends that you take the test after you call the hotline.
So you're not even getting out of your car.
You're not even getting out of the car. They don't want anyone out of the car. They want minimal contact, which really is the guidelines for the Center for Disease Control, the CDC, minimal contact. So the only contact will be with a healthcare provider who has protection, administering the test to the patient from their vehicle.
Okay, interesting. I think, it's good for people to kind of know what to expect, because I think the unknown is also a little bit scary. So what kind of advice would you give to our senior population? Like, I'm thinking about the people who, they're at home, they're older, they've had other health issues, and maybe they're just not feeling well, but now they're afraid to go to the doctor, they're afraid to go to the emergency room, they're afraid to do anything because we're telling them all to just stay put. What do you recommend that they do in this situation where maybe they're not having the exact symptoms, but they need to go to the doctor?
Right. Well, the first recommendation would be to call their healthcare provider. And currently, many healthcare providers are implementing telehealth opportunities, especially for people in this age group, so they do not have to physically leave their home and be seen at a physician's office. So the recommendation I would say is to first call their healthcare provider and express whatever symptoms they may be having, and that healthcare provider could potentially direct them to other actions, either call back in a day or see how things go or take their temperature, whatever they may do. They may do certain recommendations. And they also may say, well, if you're having certain symptoms, you can go to the emergency room. Let's say that's a recommendation from the physician. And at Stony Brook, we do have emergency room triage from 11 a.m. to 11 p.m., which means the patients are evaluated in their vehicle with their symptoms because they don't want to cross other symptoms. And especially with older adults in this category, with underlying issues, they may have other health issues, not only COVID-19. So we want to be sure that they understand that we will be taking care of whatever health care needs they may have, and they have a triage right there at the emergency room to be sure that they're not bringing in potential COVID-19 patients if someone should have another health care issue.
Okay, and of course, the children that are needing to go to the hospital, I know Stony Brook has their own pediatric emergency room. That is just running like a regular emergency room now?
That is running like a regular emergency room, and I would say that you would take the advice of your healthcare provider or the pediatrician, whoever is sending you to the pediatric emergency room. My recommendation would be to call them first before you get there.
Okay.
So that they're expecting you to come and whatever, or have your physician call, and for the parents to have the physician call the emergency room so that they can expect you. My recommendation would be if you don't have to go, if it's not an emergency, do not go to the emergency room.
Okay, that's a good recommendation. How about, talk to me about I know we were speaking about this briefly earlier today. What's the status of the personal protective equipment for the healthcare workers?
Well, Stony Brook Hospital ensures that all of our healthcare workers have access to available PPE to keep them and patients safe. So we do have enough to do that. That said, with the increase, we're anticipating that we will need more. And we're also trying to come up with creative ways to minimize the use of PPEs. For example, they've extended tubing to outside some patients' hospital rooms so that the nurse does not have to use PPE to change the IV bags. So you're talking about however many times a day they would have to do that. So that's preserving our quantity of PPEs that we're using for healthcare providers. And also, Stony Brook University's iCreate lab has stepped up, and they're manufacturing face shields through the use of 3D printers. And in hearing about this, Suffolk County Libraries, which of course you may know are all closed, offered to donate all of their 3D printers, and now they're creating a printing farm to produce all of these amazing face shields for our healthcare providers right on the front lines.
Pretty amazing what we're capable of. It really, really is. This is an unprecedented time, and we want to keep everybody safe. Again, I said in our field as elder law attorneys, we're very concerned about our senior population. I don't know if you're aware of this, but Governor Cuomo put temporary law into place where we can actually notarize documents virtually. So I can actually have people still sign their powers of attorney, their healthcare proxies, if they haven't gotten to do it yet. They can do it remotely through FaceTime, Skype, Zoom, however we can do it, and we can still notarize the documents. So that's really huge. And, we're trying to make sure that people are still thinking about this stuff, even though I know everybody's kind of focused on the virus itself. Just one last thing, just so people know, what is the current protocol regarding visitation at the hospital, and is it the same throughout the state, or is each hospital doing their own thing?
Currently, there's no visitation policy at Stony Brook, and I believe the governor implemented that as well, at least in the tri-state area, in New York, downstate, as well as I believe Jersey and Connecticut also have that. So what does that mean? That means if you're to go to the emergency room and take a loved one or your friend or family member, you are not allowed in the emergency room with the potential patient. If the potential patient is admitted, you are not allowed to visit. The importance of technology, we're actually, in addition to, and going back to the PPEs, we're accepting PPE donations from the community, as well as donations of hand sanitizer that would help our healthcare workers, as well as old iPads, because that's how our patients are communicating with their family and friends because of the no visitation policy.
Oh, wow. Okay. But if people are coming into the hospital, should they be bringing their own technology if they have it?
If they can, I'm not sure if they're allowed to keep that with them.
Okay.
Obviously, you can bring it, but I'm not sure if they're able to actually have that, depending upon which area of the hospital they would be admitted to.
Gotcha. Okay. Okay. Well, I thank you so much. Again, this is Juliette McKenna, Director of Development Health Sciences at Stony Brook Medicine, and we appreciate you and everybody at Stony Brook and everything that you're doing to help with this unbelievable situation.
Well, thank you, Melissa, and you gave great advice for people to get the power of attorneys and the healthcare proxies ready. I know it's hard to think about that in this time. One last thing, if I may, the other thing we're accepting are financial donations. We set up a coronavirus crisis challenge fund, and that's accessible through our website at stonybrook.edu.
All right, terrific. Thank you so much. Thanks for joining us.
Thanks, Melissa. Take care.
Take care.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Thank you again for joining us on this episode of Elder Law Matters. And please remember to check out our website at genserlaw.com and check us out on social media. We have a great social media page, Facebook page that is chock full of information. Also, if you have any questions you want to ask me directly, you can email me at melissa@genserlaw.com. Look forward to speaking with you all again soon.
Thank you for listening to Elder Law Matters, the only show that talks about elder law and estate planning. For more information, check us out at genserlaw.com.